Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports is Ordered. And as you can see, I'm dolo right now. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Logical has some things pop up. The 2-5 is here to hold it down. 2-5 is here for you, your unorthodox statistician. Going left so much you thought I was southpaw. I can see the things that Deontay Wilder doesn't see. Tonight, picks, and guess what? Some more picks. We got NFL, we got college football, but of course, we're going to start this thing off with get it off my chest. So, happy Friday, everybody. I can make a whole get it off my chest right now just off watching this Florida State game. Florida State on the TV, got number 2 Oregon on the phone right in front of me here. So I'm still up in here, Mets fighting and everything. So get it off my chest. I wanted to talk about coaching tonight because I keep seeing videos, I keep seeing reels, I keep hearing little snark comments, either from coaches or people defending coaches. That's the thing that I don't understand about Americans, is that we talk about helping the little guy, we talk about being generous, helping the less fortunate, but every time we get an opportunity, we side with the power structure. When the rich people are running roughshod over the poor, we don't care about the poor. We say the rich person has the right to be a dick. So when I look at these coaches, college football, we've been talking about it for years. Players weren't getting paid. Universities making all this money off of them. Nobody's coming to a Big Ten game to see the commissioner. We were there to see J.J. McCarthy last year, Kyle McCord and Marvin Harrison Jr., so on and so forth. We're there now to see Arch Manning and Quinn Ewers. But people keep making these comments like, oh, these coaches they can't discipline their kids. Oh, they can't lead because now that kids are making money. So let me ask a question. When you think of college sports, what do you think a coach's description is? So, of course, he's going to do X and O's. He's going to galvanize, win football games, so on and so forth. But coaching is also teaching. Coaching is also guiding. So if you have young men on your team that are not acting right, that are not being disciplined, we're having conversations now about, say UCF, for example, KJ Jefferson got benched. People saying, did they just blow up their NIL program because now they benched him? Who's going to transfer there now? Well, if you look at the tape and you watch the games, you see KJ Jefferson's playing like shit. So why should he continue to play just so someone else could come in? If you don't want to come to my school because I benched a player that wasn't playing well, good riddance. Go somewhere else. I got a job. My job is not for my team next year. My job is to take care and win games with the current team that I have in my locker room. Coaches don't want to coach no more. They don't want to lead anymore, even as a parent, right? And I got kids of all ages from 21 down to 6. Yeah, I get frustrated. Yeah, they have it a little bit better than I had it growing up, rules and such. And, I used to get whoopings that they don't get. But you still got to teach the lessons. Maybe you can't discipline them in this moment, but the goal is not instant gratification. It's a process. You start at point A, you graduate to point B. So that's why I don't understand this conversation. These coaches took these jobs knowing that these kids were going to get paid. They're not getting paid more than the coaches, like the NFL, like the NBA, for example. So coaches, take your locker rooms back if that's what's necessary. But coach, lead, don't complain. Because realistically, there's people out here complaining about the money that you make, being the highest paid person in the whole state. Except for, sometimes Americans, we side with the power structure. So, Oregon 7-0 over Purdue with 4:45 left in the first quarter, 3rd and goal from the 2. Duke 17, Florida State 6. We still got Fresno State and Nevada coming up later. We still have Oklahoma State going out to Provo to play BYU. Could we see an upset out in the mountains? We'll see. But week 7 is here. The NFL got off to a start last night with the Denver Broncos crushing the New Orleans Saints. You know, Derek Carr might be back in 2 weeks, they say. They need him sooner than that, even though I don't think the Saints are going anywhere anyway. But on this week, you know, you have bye weeks for both Chicago and Dallas. So maybe we could go a week without talking about the Cowboys or hearing about the Cowboys. You know, but starting things off, Super Bowl rematch out in San Jose, Santa Clara. You got the Kansas City Chiefs coming in, the champs. You know, we saw what happened in the Super Bowl. They played a lot of press coverage, a lot of man pressure, and Brock Purdy missed 2 throws that could have won the Super Bowl. He had a throw in the first quarter that would have never allowed the game to go to overtime if it was connected. You know, he had the third down play late in the game. Chris Jones in overtime got through. Him and Trent McDuffie took over the game. So Kansas City, can they employ that same strategy? L'Jarius Sneed is over in Tennessee now, but I think that they can. You know, San Francisco, you know, Jordan Mason, he's questionable. We'll see if he plays, but we just got word earlier today that Jawan Jennings isn't playing. So, but reinforcements are on the way, and that's the thing about teams like San Francisco. Even when someone doesn't play, there's always next man up. There's always somebody new to step up. Ricky Pearsall, remember him? The rookie first-round pick that got drafted earlier this year got shot in the offseason. He's going to play this weekend. So salute to that young man for coming back. Now, you would think that the NFL does not want San Francisco to win this game. Because if you go back to the Super Bowl, there were massive holdings that Kansas City was not called for during the course of that game. But anybody that plays Kansas City gets used to that, I guess. But Andy Reid is coming off a bye. You know what his record is coming off a bye? 21-4. Good luck, San Francisco. You know, they're going to make Brock Purdy try to beat him. The good news is Brock Purdy has been playing well enough this season to do so. Now, when it comes to picking the game, I'm so childish and immature, right? Because my thought about this is it's a regular season game. Go with San Francisco. If this was a Super Bowl, I'd go with Kansas City. But, you know, Kareem Hunt has come in. He's played well since he came back to the Chiefs. Kansas City still doesn't have a traditional number 1 receiver. And with Rashee Rice out, we might see the effects of that. 4th and goal for Oregon, by the way. You know, San Francisco, just when you thought it was running backs, just when you thought it was wide receivers, they're on another kicker. They just signed Anders Coulson for this game. So against my better judgment, I'm going to pick San Francisco to win this game 23-17. Patrick Mahomes so far this season, 6 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. And if we weren't so fixated on talking about teams like Dallas, you would know that. We would be having those conversations. Touchdown, Oregon, Jordan James from 1 yard out on 4th and goal. We would be talking about that and how Patrick Mahomes has slipped back a little bit this season. That doesn't mean he's not a great quarterback. It doesn't mean that the Chiefs are in trouble. They started out slow last year. It wasn't quite 6-6 as far as touchdown to interceptions, but Kansas City didn't come on until late, even in the playoffs. A lot of people didn't pick Kansas City to get to the Super Bowl. So this is not panic time for Kansas City. I mean, they're undefeated. I just think this 49ers team is going to be better on this day. The playoffs have already started for the 49ers. You know, Arizona's a little bit better than we thought they would be, or not me per se, even though their record doesn't reflect that. They beat San Francisco. San Francisco's 0-2 in their division. They can't give up anything. So the playoffs are already here for them, so I'm going with the desperate team in that matchup. Then you got the Battle of the North. Detroit, Minnesota, Sam Darnold, a lot of people's MVP coming off of a bye week. We all know what happened to Aiden Hutchinson. You know, so prayers out to him. Hopefully he gets better soon. Looks like he's out for the season, but could make the Super Bowl if they make the Super Bowl. So this is going to be a big game early on in this season. that may set the tone on how the rest of the season goes. Detroit can win this game. They still have Jahmyr Gibbs. They're still going to put a lot of David Montgomery on you. But the matchup here is the coaching matchup. Ben Johnson and Brian Flores, the cat and mouse, the checkers match, the chess match. Who can outsmart who? Now, if you look at the numbers, because I'm your resident statistician, Minnesota's defense looks leaky in the past. But that's only if you don't include the context that they've been jumping on teams and teams have had to throw to come back. So the numbers are a little skewed because teams are playing from behind against Minnesota. Detroit's coming in off of that massive whooping that they put on Dallas down in Jerry World. So they're riding high. They're coming in with confidence minus the Aiden Hutchinson thing. Carlton Davis looks like he might come back for this game. They're going to need him. But I don't think it's enough. I'm going with Minnesota at home, even though they're out Blake Cashman. He's got some turf toe going on. He's out of here. But I think that Minnesota's defense is just going to make one extra play. Jared Goff has been kind of up and down, teetering this season, coming off the bye last week. Looked great in Dallas. But I'm going to go with the evidence that I have in 4 games versus 1. So give me Minnesota. Out in London, and I don't know why we keep doing this, because the last I heard, the British were our allies. So I don't know why, we keep sending these games over there. It's one thing to send Jacksonville over there. That's their adopted team. It's Jacksonville's home away from home. But can you get a better opponent for the British fans? Can you send somebody over there that has a pulse? Can we get well, you don't want to say Green Bay because they already went to Brazil, but send San Francisco over there. Send somebody over there that's worthwhile. But they got the Patriots this week. Drake May coming off of his 3-touchdown performance, and Florida State just dropped another pass, y'all. But Drake May is coming off of his 3-touchdown performance, 2 interceptions to go along with that. It was against the Texans. Last week, we saw Jacksonville quit. Before the season started, Mr. Logical and I had a conversation about coaches who are going to be on the hot seat. I brought up Doug Peterson. I just felt that this team is slipping away from him. When you look at the fact that he's a Super Bowl winning coach, there's a certain expectation that you're going to be competitive, that you're going to win games, that you're going to be able to close teams out. But Jacksonville can't score in the red zone, and then they let their opponents score 76% of the time in the red zone. So that's not a winning formula no matter who your coach is. Now, everything starts and ends with the quarterback, right? But just like this Florida State game I'm watching right now, Jacksonville receivers are allergic to the basketball. The way that they hate Trevor Lawrence is you would think that he was out here sleeping with their women, dropping everything, making him look bad. He gets the blame. Nobody cares about Gabe Davis. He's going to be out half the season anyway, probably. Christian Kirk, where you at? So Brian Thomas has been a revelation as a rookie out of LSU, probably the best receiver out of the rookies right now besides Malik Neighbors, just due to injury, of course. But he's the next best thing. So Jacksonville's 30th in yards per play allowed, meaning that offenses will move the ball up and down the field on them. Drake May built some confidence last week. He responded well to the pressure, even though he had the 2 picks. He didn't look like a rookie per se. He made mistakes, but you would think that the way Jared Mayo was talking about him in the offseason, you'd have thought that this guy didn't have a business on an NFL field this season. If they were playing a team other than the Texans, they probably win last week. They're playing a team other than the Texans this week, so I'm picking them. Give me the Pats to go to England and knock off the Jaguars. Titans at Bills, Will Levis, questionable. I've been calling for Mason Rudolph for the last 3 weeks because I came into the season with high hopes for the Titans. When I love hard, but love is over. So when I hate hard. So, Will Levis has a shoulder injury. We'll see how that works out. Why can't Tennessee get Calvin Ridley the ball? They gave him the money. You gave him the money. Give him the ball. Last week, 0 catches, 8 targets. He had the targets, but get him the damn ball. As I look at this game, I hope Will Levis does play because to me, he's the NFL version of Howard Stern. I can't turn my head away because what is he going to do next? And even if I don't want to watch him, I'm drawn in because what is he going to do next? So, Buffalo picked up Amari Cooper earlier this week. I know a lot of people in the hot box, shout out to those guys. I know that they're down on Amari Cooper, and I understand it. He hasn't played well the last 2 seasons or so outside of a couple of games here and there. But he also had Deshaun Watson as his quarterback. For my money, he's still one of the best route runners in the league. I would even say top 5-ish when it just comes to running routes. But you got to have a quarterback that can get you the ball. And the one thing that Josh Allen will do, he will put that ball in the air. So I like the pickup. I don't know what it's going to do this week just because it's the first week. So you got to get the chemistry down, work out the kinks. James Cook is back, though. He sat out Monday night. But, boy, did the Bills find out what they had in their rookie, Ray Davis. He came in and ate the Jets' defense alive. Tennessee has one of the better defenses in the league as well, just like the Jets. But I just think Buffalo's too much right now. I don't know if Taylor Rapp is going to play like Superman again like he did on Monday night. But against this Titans team, I don't think he needs to. So give me Buffalo. So far, that's San Francisco, that's Minnesota, that's New England, and that's Buffalo. So let's go Indianapolis and Miami. Quietly, very, very quietly, because everybody's been focusing on Tua, the concussion. Is he going to come back? When is he going to come back? Is he going to play? Well, Miami quietly is 5th in yards per play allowed on defense. They're 1st in the league on third down defense. They're 3rd in the league against the pass. But we would never know that because it's all about the quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson is back. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Not because he's not a good player, not because he doesn't have talent, but Joe Flacco has been cooking out here. One thing that Anthony Richardson will do, he will complete half of his passes, sometimes lower than that. And sometimes he'll complete them to the other team. So Jonathan Taylor's still out. This is not an easy game for the Colts, even though you look across the field, you look at the schedule, and you say Miami's not beating anybody until Tua gets back. He might be back next week, by the way. Next week is not this week. So I'm taking the Colts, even though Achan's going to play, it looks like. And I agree with you, Uncle O. Addicted to podcasting now. Shout out to Uncle O, y'all. Y'all can catch him on the Hot Box as well on Sunday, Monday, Thursdays, and Fridays. But look, let's go to Cincinnati, or let's go to Cleveland real quick. We got Cincinnati and Cleveland. Joe Burrow hasn't won at Cincinnati in his career. I guess them two, everybody. You know what I'm saying? 1-5 Joe Burrow is against the Browns, which doesn't make a whole lick of sense. But sometimes, the matchups just dictate that way. I remember back in the NBA, there was a period where Gerald Wallace and the Charlotte Bobcats had an 8 or 9 game winning streak against Kobe Bryant and the Lakers. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense, but it happens. So I was very tempted to pick Cleveland to win this game. And I'm going to go ahead and call this game our Iowa special. This might be a 13-10 game if we're lucky. Cincinnati barely got out of the Meadowlands last week. Their defense finally showed up, but I don't know what to take from it because they were playing against the Giants, and especially with no Malik Neighbors. Deshaun Watson came on in the second half against Philadelphia last week, 11 of 12 in the second half. And they had a chance to potentially try to win that game besides a false start on 4th down, which is not Deshaun Watson's fault, by the way. But I'm going to roll with Cincinnati against, I was tempted to pick Cleveland, but I just can't get there. I don't know if Cleveland going to win another game this season. They obviously will, but I just don't know where it is. Carolina and Washington, the Commanders coming off the loss in Baltimore last week. 3-game winning streak or 4-game winning streak down the drain. They still impressed me because they could have folded in Baltimore. Derrick Henry running roughshod, 132 yards. They could have called it quits, but they played all the way through. Dan Quinn is not going to let them quit unless he falls behind 28-3, I guess. If he's not behind 28-3, he's a pretty good coach. But Carolina, now with Andy Dalton, their offense has been revitalized. We see Jonathan Brooks practicing this week. Xavier Leggett looks good. Give me Washington. Give me Washington. I don't think I have to get too deeper into that, but I'll take Washington, something along the lines of 31-20. Then one of the games of the week. Let's go to Lambeau. The white cheddar uniforms I saw. The white cheddar? Okay. Playing against the Texans. The Texans still haven't been impressive to me this year. They played the Patriots last week, like I mentioned. Their defense looked pretty good. Offense looked pretty good. But that was the first game this year that I felt they played a complete game or that both sides of the ball were engaged and executing. But of course, they were playing the Patriots. So again, what do you take from that? The NFC North this season is 5-2 against the AFC South, to include the beatdown that Minnesota put on Houston a couple of weeks ago, which is Houston's only loss of the season. Jordan Love's getting back into the swing of things. Christian Watson's playing. Dubes is playing. He's got his full, artillery besides maybe Wicks. He might be out. The Packers, +9 in turnovers this year. Xavier McKinney is probably the best defender in the league right now, not named TJ Watt or Aiden Hutchinson. Maybe Max Crosby. But he's a secondary player, so unless he gets 15 interceptions, he's probably not going to get Defensive Player of the Year, even though he leads the league in interceptions and has pretty much had a turnover in every game. Now, can Houston live in this game without Nico Collins on third down? That's going to be the question that I think tells the tale of this game. Can Stroud make enough plays on third down without his big target to win this game? Joe Mixon came back last week. They're a whole different team and a whole different offense when he's there. But I'm going to take the Packers at home because when I was looking at that injury report, I saw Kamari Lassiter, Jimmy Ward, Henry Tuoto all out. So the Texans are going to be shorthanded. Green Bay's hot right now offensively. Give me the Packers. Seattle at Atlanta. And you know how Unc feels about the Falcons already. This is going to be a good game. I think this is going to be one of those games where Atlanta, they're going to learn the hard way that you can't live on the edge. Week to week, they play everybody down to the wire. Every game is a game with 2 minutes left. So the good news is that Kirk Cousins has shown that he can come through with the game on the line. The bad news is you got to keep doing it every week. So Seattle's coming in on this 3-game losing streak. They played a tough game against San Francisco last Thursday night, so they have the 10 days rest. I'm taking Seattle, and shout out to Jesse Bates. He might be one of the best defensive players in the league too. But for Seattle, Byron Murphy and Tariq Woolen should be back. Only problem is they're 27th against the run. So I'm still going to take Seattle. We'll see how that goes. My upset of the week. Yes, the NFL has upsets as well. So I told you I thought about Cleveland, but I found a different upset. This one has a player that's looking for revenge. He played for a team last year. They had hard knocks. We saw the video of the GM that Mr. Logical brought up telling Saquon Barkley that they were going to try to make this work. You fast forward, Saquon Barkley's a Philadelphia Eagle now. Okay. So, of course, he wants to come in, and the game is at the Meadowlands. So, he wants to make a statement, and he wants to light the Giants up. But I just can't trust Philly's offense right now. Who are they? What are they? Dallas Goedert is out for this game with a hamstring injury. Jordan Mailata injured on the offensive line. We saw the Giants, if nothing else this season, they've put up fights. They came close with Cincinnati last week. A couple of weeks ago on Thursday Night Football, they had the big game with Dallas. They came into FedEx Field or Northwest Field, as it's called now, and they would have beat Washington if they had a kicker. So the Giants have been playing good football defensively. They've been playing well enough to win. You just need the offense to help out. Now, what's the remedy for your offense when you can't get right and you can't get the ball down the field? Play against Philadelphia's secondary. So Quinyon Mitchell, the rookie that they drafted out of Toledo this year, he looks like the real deal. He looks like the kind of guy that in 3 or 4 seasons, maybe even shorter than that, we're going to be talking about him as a top 5 to 7 corner in this league. Problem is, he's not the only corner that Philadelphia has. So I'm going to take the Giants. Wandale Robinson quietly fourth in receptions in the league. Neighbors is fifth in receptions, and he didn't even play last week. So is he going to play this week? I guess we're going to have to see. Yeah, Ethan was tripping on that one. He got all the stuff to say about the Steelers, but as always, it's easy for us to tell everybody else what's wrong with them when we need to look in the mirror. Raiders and Rams. I got nothing for you. Just give me the Rams. Jets and Steelers, Sunday Night Football. Log off, Unc. It's about time to go grab your Earl Grey tea. So, the Jets are coming in. They went and got Devontae Adams. The Green Bay Jets, they went and got their old thing back. Aaron Rodgers ready to rock and roll. Their offense actually came alive on Monday Night Football last week. Pittsburgh. What to say about Pittsburgh? What's going on in that quarterback room? Mr. Logical and I talked about this the other night. Mr. Logical doesn't seem to think that Russell Wilson is going to get the start. I think he is. I think that why you giving him first team reps if he's not going to play? You might see both quarterbacks. You might see Justin Fields bring back the slash roll. We heard the reports back in training camp about him returning kicks, lining up at receiver. Maybe he'll play some running back, But, so Najee Harris, tough, reliable, but not explosive. Pittsburgh, even though they have the talent, their running game is not going to bust explosive plays on you. So as I always say, every opponent that they play are going to be in the game as long as they don't turn the ball over. And we saw Aaron Rodgers with the 3 picks against Minnesota a couple of weeks ago. We saw Aaron Rodgers with the pick to end the game on Monday Night Football. The Jets defense has been playing top-notch this season. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have a decent game. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. Just like I talked about Cleveland and Cincinnati, I think we're looking at something like a 17-14 type game here. I'm going to throw caution to the wind, and I'm going to pick the Jets so Unc can come in here and talk trash to me next week. Monday Night Football. Are the Bucs a serious team? Yeah, they went into the Superdome, and they put up 51 last week on the Saints, but Baker Mayfield also threw 3 picks and a half. Right? They were playing against a rookie quarterback. This time you get the reigning MVP. Even though I didn't think he deserved the MVP, he is the MVP. So, Monday Night Football, number 1 rushing team in the league, the Baltimore Ravens, coming into your place. What are you going to do? I'm not saying that this is a must-win, but at the same time, this is one of those games that can define your season. The confidence that you can get from beating a team like Baltimore. These are the number 1 and number 2 scoring offenses in the league. Last week it was Baltimore and Washington. So the consistent thing here is Baltimore's offense. Tampa's receivers should be able to win these battles against the DBs. But is Tampa going to be able to run the ball? Sean Tucker came out of nowhere, Syracuse's finest. 14 rushes, 136 yards against the Saints last week. My guy, Bucky Irvin, another 14 rushes for 76 yards. So I think this is going to be a good game. I'm going with the home team, Tampa, to pull off the Monday night upset. And then finally, the Chargers and the Cardinals. 2 of the hardest teams for me to figure out this year. In my early season projections, I picked the Cardinals to finish 3rd in the West ahead of Seattle. The Cardinals 1 week will beat the 49ers, and they show up the next week and can't move the ball against Green Bay. The Chargers, hopefully Coach Harbaugh's stomach is okay and he leaves those big ribs alone before the game. But at least I know what to expect week to week from the Chargers. They're going to run the ball. They're going to play defense. They're going to be conservative and take the air out the football. And they're going to try to bully you around the yard. Now, the problem with Arizona is they have talent, but they have it everywhere they don't need it. Outside of Marvin Harrison, who, of course, had the concussion last week. You got Michael Wilson out there, no relation. Trey McBride. You got Kyler Murray. But of course, the question is going to be, can they run the ball? James Conner.
They haven't been running the ball the way that they ran the ball last year. So it's going to be a tough game. But the good news for the Chargers is you're not traveling very far. Usually we care when these West Coast teams have to fly to the Meadowlands, to Tennessee, to Jacksonville. But you're just going across the road. You're just going across the road, one state over. So give me the Chargers on Monday Night Football. And that's how we rolling for this week. Those are the picks, and we're going to move on to college football. So before we get to the big games, let's talk about upset alert. And I've learned that I'm really good at picking these teams to cover, but the straight up upset, not so much. But I guess nobody truly is. That's why they're upsets. So let's go. Upset alert. Give me Auburn covering against Missouri. NC State covering against Cal. Nebraska covering the 6.5 at Bloomington against the Hoosiers. Give me Wake Forest over UConn. Now for my actual upsets. Give me South Carolina to go into Norman. It's still Cocktober, damn it. They going to get somebody. And the one thing about Oklahoma, Gaylord Memorial Stadium is you always hear how great Oklahoma's home field advantage is. But to some degree, they remind me a lot of Alabama. I don't know how good your home field is because the team is always good. So it's not the home field, it's the team. And, oh, by the way, Oklahoma doesn't play Texas there. We just saw Oklahoma lose a couple of weeks to Tennessee on that field. So I'm taking South Carolina. Give me Toledo over Northern Illinois. And the upset that makes my stomach hurt, give me Florida over Kentucky. Everybody's fixated, myself included, on when Billy Napier is getting fired. That defense is playing well. They held Tennessee scoreless in the first half last week. Kentucky, you just never know what you're going to get. Life is like a box of chocolates. So give me Florida in the swamp against Kentucky. And then two more upsets for you. Give me Colorado. Now that, Travis Hunter is playing. Give me Colorado to go out to Tucson and get a win over the Wildcats. And then the big one, give me the Razorbacks. Vietnam at night. I warned Tennessee 2 weeks ago. Now I'm warning LSU. You're on upset watch and you're going down. All right, so now on to the big one. All eyes are on Austin, Texas. This is a game that's going to play a big role in the future of college football and determining what that future is. Georgia has been on a crazy run since 2017. They beat Nick Saban for a national title, beat TCU for another one. Last year, they were probably good enough to win the national title, but they lost the SEC title game to Alabama. Their last 5 losses are to Alabama. What I didn't say is Texas. Okay. Now, Texas comes into this game number 1 in the nation. Deservedly so. Because I don't believe in this whole concept of Oregon beat Ohio State, so they got to automatically be number 1. You beat, and Oregon's up 21-0, by the way, with 11 minutes left in the second quarter. And here's Florida State coming down the field, kickoff return. That's a touchdown, y'all. But when I look at this, I struggle because I don't know who Texas has beat that I'm supposed to be impressed with. I look at Colorado State, Louisiana Monroe, Oklahoma, with the quarterback that didn't start the season. UTSA, who is not UTSA of 2 years ago. Louisiana Monroe. So when I look at Texas, they haven't been pushed yet because they haven't had anybody to push them. And don't forget, and I didn't forget to mention the game in the Big House a couple of weeks ago, where Michigan still doesn't even know who their quarterback is. Texas came into that game right away, and that's the thing where I talked about how you look at things in a simple manner. You know what I'm saying? What it do? Florida State just ran the kickoff back. That's what it do. Scores now 17-13. Duke 14-49 left to go in the third quarter. But when I look at Texas, right, sometimes when you look at these bets, you got to look at trends. So I would feel, as strange as it is to say, I would feel way more comfortable with Texas in this game if the game was at Georgia. Like when I think back and I look back at this, I think about Texas playing toe-to-toe with Joe Burrow, but they couldn't get it done in the end. 2 years ago, Bryce Young comes in, leads the drive down the field to get the game-winning field goal. But then they went to Tuscaloosa last year, lay off the smack of down. They played Georgia a couple of years ago. Remember Sam Ellinger? Texas is back. Not quite then, but they beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. But for some reason, Texas doesn't seem to win these games at home. Now, back to what I was saying before about the college and in the future of college football. So Georgia was supposed to be the big bad bully of the block. Nick Saban's gone. It's your world. But then they got smacked around by Kalen DeBoer. Georgia has a very thin room for error because not only do they have this game, they go to Oxford to play Ole Miss. They are the best team in the SEC, but sometimes the best team loses. They still have to play Tennessee later this season. Georgia Tech is no slouch, even though Haynes King is out tomorrow against Notre Dame. So when I look at this game goes a long way because next year, when Quinn Ewers hands those keys over to Arch Manning, a lot of people are going to jump on the bandwagon and have Texas as the favorite next year. So is Georgia going to allow Texas to come take their spot? Or is Kirby Smart just going to push somebody when he doesn't get his way? So Georgia, ever since the Alabama game in the second half when they made the furious comeback that just fell short, that offense has been humming. Humming, I tell you. And I don't know if Texas has played against any quarterback this year that can challenge them the way that Carson Beck will. I'm not a big Carson Beck fan to begin with, but he's hands down the best quarterback that Texas has played against this season so far. The problem for Georgia is, where are they looking ahead? Because last week they gave up 31 points to Mississippi State's second string quarterback. Texas, like I mentioned, no pass teams, but they're number 2 against the pass. Not after tomorrow. They are number 2 in red zone defense. Not after tomorrow. So Georgia doesn't need to win this game to save their season. They don't need this game to make the playoff even. They need this game because they need to reestablish themselves and remind everybody on who the fuck they are. So I'm taking the Bulldogs in a 34-31 upset because this game is an inflection point for Georgia's program going forward. Then you go down to Knoxville, third Saturday in October. Get your cigars ready. The Crimson Tide are coming through. Now, we remember the scene 2 years ago. Hendon Hooker, Mr. Logical always talks about how the kicker committed a false start on the game with a field goal, 52-49. That was Bryce Young's last year. Last year, Tennessee went into Tuscaloosa, took a 20-6 halftime lead. And then Nick Saban said playtime is over. Tennessee didn't score again. 7-point loss down in Tuscaloosa. This game is this week's OK Corral matchup, meaning this might be your 47-41 type game. These teams aren't going to stop each other because both of their weaknesses are in the secondary. Now, Tennessee has a lot of concern because the last 2 weeks I mentioned how Florida shut them out in the first half. They got shut out in the first half the week before that too. So Nico needs to hold on to the football, not turn it over, and be patient. A lot of times Josh Heupel and Nico get caught up in trying to make the big play. It reminds me a lot of when Donovan McNabb had Deshaun Jackson at wide receiver. He would just step back, wait, and you're either getting sacked, you're throwing a pick because now you're rushing a throw, or you're going deep for a touchdown. Now, Alabama secondary, same thing. Hasn't played a lot of great quarterbacks this year. We saw what Carson Beck did to them in the second half. We saw what Diego Pavia did to them. But in other games this season, they were tight matchups. USF, for example, 14-13 in the fourth quarter. They just didn't have the quarterback that could pass the ball. They were down in Camp Randall. But then the quarterback got hurt. So Alabama has been a lot of fool's gold on defense this year. These are not the Nick Saban offensive and defensive lines that we've been used to. So Bama's not even tough there the way that we've grown accustomed to. Tennessee, James Pierce, who might be the number one pick in the draft this year. They're going to be able to bully Alabama's offensive line, I think. Bama, can you hold on to the football? Bama is number 108 out of 134 teams in time of possession. Can you hold on to the ball? Can you keep Tennessee off? Can you keep Nico off the field? I think Tennessee's defensive line wins this game because I think that both secondaries are question marks enough that I'm going to go with the home team. Alabama, you saw them. It wasn't just a Georgia thing in that second half. They actually lost to Vandy. Last week, they were about that close to get smacked around by Coptober and learning the hard way. So I'm going to go with Tennessee to win this game at home and put Alabama to the brink of elimination of the playoffs. Like I mentioned, LSU going down to Arkansas. I think Arkansas is going to win this game depending on Taylor Green's health. He's not injured per se, but he's beat up. We saw Arkansas go into Stillwater and put up 600-plus yards on the Cowboys. We saw them in Jerry World get into this one-score fight, this rock fight with Texas A&M. So they are battle-tested. LSU coming off the emotional win against Ole Miss last week at home, Tiger Stadium at night. Bit of a hangover. I think they're going to get out the block slow. And this is one of those dangerous matchups where Arkansas views LSU as a rival. And LSU is like, yeah, you're just kind of there. We don't like Ole Miss. We don't like Auburn. We want to beat Alabama. Oh, we got to go to Fayetteville again? Yes, you do. And you're going down. Michigan. On their third quarterback this season, Jack Tuttle, is it? Going into Champaign to play against the Illini, wearing those old uniforms from Red Ranger's 6-touchdown game against the Wolverines back in the 20s. It's a commemorative game, but this is the type of game where Illinois usually drops an egg. They're one of those teams that remind me a lot of, say, Purdue, where when you have expectation, they let you down. But if you don't keep your eye on them, they'll come in there and get you. And Duke going for the field goal. All right, 20-13, Duke with 9:32 left in the third quarter, looking for their first win ever against the Seminoles. First win ever. Purdue is coming towards the red zones, down 21-0. But Illinois gave up 239 rushing yards to Purdue last week. What do you think Kalel Mullins is going to do to you? Luke Altmaier has been playing well this season, but I'm just not sold on him long term. And oh, by the way, the season could get away from Illinois. They got Oregon next week at Autzen. So they have to win this game if they want to keep any hope for anything. I'm not even talking about playoffs, but you go into Oregon, you already lost to Penn State. So your season can get away from you real quick. And I think that it will. I'm going to pick Michigan to win this game. I had a feeling about Michigan against USC a couple of weeks ago. I fought it. I'm not fighting it this time. Give me the Wolverines defense to make a stand and stop the Illini. Miami at Louisville. A lot of people have this game on upset alert. Not I. Miami's coming off the bye. Their last two games, they've been living life on the edge. They've been sitting up in here talking about, they should have lost to Virginia Tech. They should have lost to Cal. Yes, they should have lost to Cal. The refs took that one over. But I'm not sold on Louisville's defense, even though it's at home, and that stadium is a tough place to play. I just got Miami in this one. I think Cam Ward makes an extra play or two. Texas should win the game tomorrow. I just don't think they will. I was going to put Notre Dame on upset alert, but Haynes King is out now, so now the spread just jumped from 8 to 12 in the flash of an eye. You know what I'm saying? So there you go. Shout out to UTEP. Arch is going to win the game. All right. Tell me more. UTEP with their first win in 357 days against Florida International the other day. Pitbull, come get your people, man. Come get your people. I am here tomorrow for the matchup between Travis Hunter and Teteroa McMillan. That's Colorado against Arizona. This is going to be one of those matchups that even though neither team is expected to make the playoff or anything like that, it's just the kind of matchup that you have to watch because of the talent involved. Travis Hunter coming off the shoulder injury last week. Jimmy Horn Jr. was injured as well. Arizona is kind of one of those up and down teams, ebb and flow. They went out and got smoked by BYU last week, but if you look at the numbers, it was a much closer game than the score indicated. But I'm taking Colorado. I'm taking Colorado in that game, and if Colorado wins that game, one game away from bowl eligibility, and they only have one loss in the Big 12. And when you look around the landscape of the Big 12, you sitting up here and Utah's not what we think they are, what they were, and Cam Rice is out for the season now. BYU plays later on against Oklahoma State. We'll see what happens there. Iowa State, even though they're undefeated, a lot of people don't believe in them. They're a good football team, but their name is Iowa State. You got Army and Navy tomorrow playing against East Carolina and Charlotte, respectively. So I think that both of those teams continue to win. Both of those teams have Notre Dame this year. Both of them still undefeated, so let the beat go on. I got UCLA pulling an upset over Rutgers tomorrow. UCLA out in Los Angeles, California, just in case you didn't know. Let's see here what we got here going down the schedule here. USC at Maryland. That's so weird that this is a conference game. I don't even know what to say about that, like as a resident Marylander. Kansas State, watch out for West Virginia tomorrow in Morgantown. I think you'll pull it out, but watch out. Kansas State, another one of those teams. UNLV at Oregon State. I think that's going to be a good game. The reason that I have my eye on that game is because next week, Boise at UNLV. Loser is probably not getting the G5 playoff spot. So just keep that in mind. So final thoughts before we get out of here. Of course, the NBA starts on Tuesday. And of course, wouldn't you know, Paul George and Joel Embiid are not playing back-to-backs this year. And yet I'm supposed to take Philly seriously as a contender. I didn't take Philly seriously as a contender before we got that news. Just because Philadelphia is reliant on too many players that have injury issues. And just too many players in general. Like, usually you talk about people like LeBron and Anthony Davis, and you say things like, hey, there's only one basketball to go around. But they're trying to get the basketball through 4 or 5 different guys, which you can do if Embiid and Paul George are not on the floor, because that reduces it to 2 or 3. But I don't know. So I'm big on the Cleveland Cavaliers this year. Opening night, I can't wait to see Karl Anthony Towns. I can't wait to see the Knicks against the Celtics. So, I can't take anything away from it because it's game 1. We're going to have to let the Knicks figure that out. We're going to have to see if Tom Thibodeau has learned that you can't play your players like a slave trade. They need rest. They need to feed the rest. They need to not break down and be available when the playoffs come around. Looking at OKC, it looks like Isaiah Hartenstein is injured just after I picked them to win the title the other day. He's hurt for a couple of weeks. We'll see how that goes. But a team that I really, really want to see is I want to see the new look Pelicans, and I want to see Memphis. Ja Morant is back. DeJounte Murray is now down with the Pelicans. So the Pelicans have a lot of length in the backcourt and on the wing that they can give people trouble defensively as long as Zion can stay healthy. You remember the last time we saw him last year, he was putting up 40 points on the Lakers in a play-in game. So don't sleep on the Pelicans, as far as finishing in the top 4 in the West. But hey, we'll figure it all out. I can't wait to watch these games tomorrow. I'm so excited, So again, Georgia over Texas, Tennessee over Bama. Let's see what happens, And if I'm wrong, I'll be here Tuesday to tell you that I was wrong. I'm not going to run from it, But the difference between me and a lot of y'all is that I'm putting my picks out in the universe to be ridiculed while you just sit behind your computer screen and talk shit. But I am 2-5. Mr. Logical will be back on Tuesday. This is Sports Reports as ordered. Do me a favor out there. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate. Do all the free things.
do all the good things. Love y'all. Peace.